Okay, so today we're going to be looking at fractions and decimals, and we're going to be converting them back and forth. And then we're going to be looking at different types of decimals. So first, we've got these two guys. We've got Jackson and Roy. Jackson and Roy are working on a project, and they need some lumber. And they each went to the lumber store and they bought some plywood. One of them, Jackson bought a piece of plywood that was 3/5 of an inch long, and Roy bought a piece of plywood that that was 7/10 of an inch long. Who purchased the thicker piece of plywood, and how do you know? So what I want you to do right now with your table is I want you to figure it out. Figure out who bought the thicker piece of plywood and how can you prove it? How do you know? So let me pause this. Come on. Maybe not. Where? Oh, there it is. Got it. Okay, so everybody thought that Roy's was thicker. Okay, tell us why.
So we took 3/5 and turned it into a decimal. And to do that, we did like long division. So we put the 5 on the outside and the 3 on the inside. But because 5 can't go into 3, we had to turn it into a 30, but with the decimal point in the middle, so it's still 3. And then 5 goes into 36 times, but it'd be 0.6 because you have to add the decimal right in front of it. So that leaves you with 0, so your answer is 0.6.
Good.
And 0.7 is larger than 0.6.
And so Roy's was 7/10, right?
Yes.
And then Jackson's was the 6/10, and so that's greater. Oh, very good. Good job. Was that easy? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, now that goes right into what we're doing today, converting your fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions. And for a lot of you, this is review, right? This is not new material. But there may be some pieces of it that are new, and that's perfectly fine, right? So to convert a fraction to a decimal, you divide the blank by the blank. The numerator by, yes, very good. Now, have you ever had trouble remembering like which number goes where and using this radical symbol? When I used to teach 5th grade, and I would always tell them, oh, this is the big tall tree and it falls on the house. And the branches ended up inside the house and the roots ended up outside the house. You know, like in the backyard or something. Okay? Just a little way to help you remember which numbers go where. Okay? Now, we're going to look at two different types of decimals today. We're going to look at a decimal that ends or terminates is known as a, anybody know? If it ends or terminates. It's a terminating decimal. Okay? It's called a terminating decimal. And then a decimal with a repeating block of numbers, that's known as a what kind of decimal? Repeating decimal, very good.
Don't we put that thing like whenever we would like find out what the decimal is, but it's like repeating? Don't we put that? I forgot what the line is like.
The bar above it, the repeating bar? Yes, yes. And we'll look at that in just 1 second. Yes. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is 3/8. So we're going to change this to a decimal by using division, okay? So we're going to divide 8 into 3, but obviously we're going to need to add our decimal point and at least 1 0 to start with, right? We might have to add more, but at first we're definitely just going to have to start with 1, okay? And so, will 8 go into 3? No. So be sure you put the 0 there. Be sure you put your decimal in the quotient so that you don't forget that that decimal goes up there. All right? Okay, now, how many times will 8 go into 30? 3 times. And 3 times 8 is?
24.
Good job. And so then we've got to subtract 30 minus 24. And what are we going to get? 6. Add another 0, bring it down. And how many times does 8 go into 60? 7 times. And 7 times 8 is 56. Subtract that, and we would get 4. Add another 0, bring it down. How many times does 8 go into 40?
5 times.
5 times, and 5 times 8 is 40, and we have 0 for the remainder. So that means that is what kind of decimal? It's a terminating decimal, isn't it? Because it ends. Now, do any of you ever have trouble figuring out if 7 times 8 is 56 or 54? Do you ever, does that ever confuse you? Okay, so look at this. 5, 6, 7, 8. That's how we count, right? 7 times 8 is 56. Isn't that nice? Yeah.
That actually makes sense.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. And so, just a little helpful tip there. Okay, now let's look at number 2. We're going to divide 16 into, well, we know we're going to at least have to have, what is the deal? Okay. There we go. 16 won't go into 1. 16 won't go into 10. But 16 will go into 100. How many times? It would go 6 times. And 6 times 16 is 96. What's 100 minus 96? 4. Add a 0, bring it down. 16 goes into 40. 2 times, which is, subtract that and get 8. Add a 0, bring it down. 16 goes into 80. What do you think? 5 times? Good. And 5 times 16 is 80. And that is a terminating Malachi, is there an emergency?
No.
Okay. Then this one, and if you have gum in your mouth, you need to spit it in the trash. This one is 5 6. How many times does 6 go into 5? Well, it doesn't, does it? How many times does 6 go into 50? 8, which is 48. Subtract that and we get 2. Add a 0, bring it down. How many times is 6 going to 20? 3 times, which is, subtract that and get, oh, wait a second. We're going to get 20 again, so that means that's going to be 3 again, and those are going to repeat, aren't they? Yes. So this is a repeating decimal. Okay. Take a look at number 4. Number 4, you have 4/9. Has anybody already gotten this answer? Okay, what do you have? 0.4 repeating. That is 0.4 repeating. Notice that denominator is 9. And when you have a denominator of 9, that tells you you're going to have a repeating decimal. Did everybody hear that? If you have a denominator of 9, you will have a repeating decimal. So look at number 6. You have a denominator of 9, you're going to have a repeating decimal. That answer is going to be 0. What? That's right. The numerator is the decimal, and that 9 tells you that it repeats. Okay? Pretty interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, 13/4. What's that going to become? Four goes into 13, which is 12. Have 1 left over, right? 4 goes into 10, which is 8. And 4 goes into 20, 5 times, which is 20. And that's a terminating decimal, isn't it? Okay, flip over to the back. Oh, and I forgot to put that this was repeating. Okay, question? We've already done this last one. Oh, yes, it's repeating. Thank you. Now, on the back side. The back side, the explanation at the top, at first when I saw it last year, I thought, oh, that's kind of weird. That was my first time to see this. And I'll show you both ways. They're saying to convert decimals to fractions. They're saying to convert a decimal to a fraction, put the decimal over 1, and multiply the numerator and denominator by 10 until there is no longer a decimal in the numerator. Then simplify your fraction. Now I'm going to put a disclaimer here. That works except on the repeating decimals. Okay, and so we'll look at that. So they're saying to take this and put it over 1. Okay, that's how you make anything an improper fraction, right? Then they're saying to multiply the numerator and denominator by 10. Okay. So that would be 3 5/10. Do you see how multiplying by a power of 10 just moves your decimal one place? Okay, you know that? So now we've got to multiply again, don't we? And that's going to give us what? 35 over what?
10.
How about 100? But it's 10 times 10. Yep. And then you need to simplify it, right? And they're both numbers are divisible by what?
5.
And that would give you 7/20. Good job. So that's the way they've taught at the top, okay? This is the way I've always taught students to do it. is, there's your decimal, right? How do you read the decimal correctly? 35 hundredths. That's how you write it as a fraction. Yeah. That's what I thought. And so that's when I saw that, I was like, that seems, yeah. Uh-huh. Is it an emergency? Okay. Okay. And then you still have to simplify it, so it would still end up being 7/20ths. But to me, that seems easier than multiplying by 10, multiplying by 10, multiplying by 10. But if, in case you didn't know your place value, that might be more beneficial if you didn't know, if you were unsure of your place value, you know. So looking at this one, how do we read that number just as a regular number? This one. Okay, just as a regular, just 275, right? So it's going to be 275, and then it would be thousands, right? Because it's in the thousandths place. And then you would simplify it. Now, it ends in 5, it ends in 0. You know it's divisible by 5, but ooh, that's a big number. Look at that. If it ends in 00, and then those last two digits are multiples of 25, you can divide by 25. So if you have, you know that you've got 4 quarters in a dollar, right? So look, I've got, this would be like 100, 200, so that'd be 8, 9, 10, 11. So 275 divided by 25 would be 11, wouldn't it? You see how I did that? Wasn't that easy?
Yeah.
And then we know there are 4 quarters in a dollar, and so 25 goes into 100 4 times. So 25 would go into 1,000 40 times, wouldn't it? Isn't that easy? Yeah. Okay. How about this one? This has got a whole number and a decimal. So we just put the whole number down, right? And that decimal is 12. What? 12 hundredths, right? So the 12 hundredths is the part you need to simplify. And they're both divisible by what? Go bigger. You got it. Now you could divide by 2, but then you'd have to divide again. So you could, it'd be better to divide by 4. And we would have 8 and 3 25ths, right? Now, look at this repeating one. What are we going to put it over? 888 over? Nope. Not 1,000. Not 1,000. Nope. Remember what we did on the other page? Remember what was the 9s? So it would be 999. Remember on the front where we had the 4 ninths? That 9 means that that's a 0.4 repeating decimal. The 7 ninths was a repeating. So if you have the, oh sorry, it's frozen. Why does it keep freezing on me? I don't know. Is it still recording? Oh, there we go. It's like it's lagging or something. Okay. And so then we would need to simplify this. Couldn't we divide by, what if we divided by 11? We should divide by 111, shouldn't we? That's right. And that would give us our 8 ninths. Good job. Is it an emergency? Is it an emergency? What? No? Okay, well then 90 for you to wait, please. Okay, because we're in the middle of notes. Okay. Okay, so now we have the 11 repeating, right? So that's going to be 11 over. It's repeating.
Over 199.
It only has 2 decimal places. So it'd be over 99. So if it's repeating and you just have like 1 decimal place, it would be over 9. If you have 2 decimal places, it's over 99. 3 decimal places, it would be 999. Okay? And then we could simplify that to, what would that simplify to?
1/9.
Yes, 1/9, right? Yep. Very good. Okay. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to do this one and 13, 14, 15 by yourself, and I'll come by and check, and I'll pass out your homework paper, which is the fractions and decimals. Whoops, that's the wrong one. It's a fraction and decimals independent practice worksheet, and I'll pass that out to you right now. And that is due on Friday, okay?